So 7 cents in postage, it's in here. All right, here we go. Francisco Elias Gonzalez. Tom just told us that Tucson got its name, we think, as the substance or the water that came out of the bottom of maybe E Mountain. Okay? And the man that did that was Francisco Elias Gonzalez. And just when we're talking about land grants, that's where his family really comes into it. Atanacia was very proud of her Elias line. She named 2 of her sons Elias. She was so proud. Okay? And you ever wonder, since she got married at age 11, why would her first babies, why would her first 2 children be miscarriages? Huh? You ever wonder about that? You know? I mean, I helped establish the 6th in vitro fertilization clinic in America, in Reno, in the early 80s. So I've been an OBGYN all my life. Okay? Believe me, not many women have periods at age 11. Few do, but you got to wait a couple more years. And Sam wanted to have kids when? Why? So why did she have 2 miscarriages? And then you look at the next 4 kids, 2 of those were miscarriages. Sam wanted to leave posterity. Look around. That is wish. You see, if Sam was only, he might be here, who knows? Okay? But if Sam was only here, he would be happy to look at you and say, you guys are my descendants. no, he said, you guys are my descendants. Okay? He'd be very happy. So that's it. He called him the guy that named Tucson as the commanding officer from Ancestry came over. This is some of their family crests. Okay.
Cliff, I'm sorry, but I never heard how we had the connection between Elias and
yes,
Santa Cruz.
Elias had a daughter or a granddaughter named Mariana, and Mariana Gonzalez married into the into the Bohorquez line, and Bohorquez was Atanacia's granddaughter. Okay, and that's on your pedigree chart that you have in the handout. It shows you back to Francisco Elias Gonzalez. That's actually Elias.
No, it says Elias Gonzalez design.
Oh, what they did in Spain was they would give the child a name, and then they would give the child the father's name and the mother's name, right? Yes. So Elias was the father's name, Gonzalez was the mother's name, and Desire, I could have had a Desire tacked on it. That's the mother. Yeah. Well, this is the mother, is Desire. And Gonzalez was the dad. Elias was probably his mother's name or something. Okay? Anyway, Atanacia wanted to pass that down. She named 2 of her sons served by a first name, which she gave them the Elias as their second name. Okay? And by the way, our mom wrote a beautiful book, and I've looked for it at the U of A library and in Salt Lake. There is not one. But I showed it to Chuck. I think Rick took me. I showed it to Chuck. Our mom Elias wrote the history of his family. It's all in Spanish. You can't read Spanish like me. It's kind of tough to read. Okay? But there is an Elias book. And this is the front page of that book. And if you really are into Spain, New Spain, you learn how to speak Spanish, how to read Spanish, and read this book. It is got some incredible family stuff. There's a reason why Atanacia was proud of our Elias line. There's a reason why she was proud. Okay? Elias is a good name. Okay, there's a rooster pool. We'll talk about the rooster pools. Okay, how they would have holidays. Also, how they would do things like shoot at each other, and you know how the men would gamble a lot and get drunk a lot. Okay. All the women did more tame things like prepare food and drunkards and things like guys. Okay. This right here, I want to clarify a little bit. That's why I came today, to understand your history. In your history, one of the greatest quotes by Sam is page 5. He tells about a dance that they threw for Sam and his companions when they first came to Tucson. Okay? How they walked through Tucson, beat the drum, and said, "Come to the big dance." Well, you know what? That might be a little bit misleading. In Tucson, you had to be invited to the dance. And so everybody was invited because these foreigners would come in. Atanacia said that, I've got her quote. Atanacia, I have her quote, and it says, "You never went to a dance unless you were invited." So it wasn't the whole city of Tucson, all 500 people or 600 people that went to dance, unless it was like the one that Sam described. And I like it because he's firing the gun and he's over here drinking. This is probably pretty classic. There's a young man trying to be a Don Juan, and remember all of us quite nicely. Sam describes that. He talked about the lady that brought in a pig. And so I'm not going to leave my pig home because gringos like pork, And she also brought her dogs, and she said, I'm not worried about the dogs. If the dogs bite the gringos, it does them right, But the part that I liked was when Atanacia, I learned many years ago first about the San Augustine Church and how they took they took some rocks and some sticks in their hands. How they dug that baby's body. I gave the name of that lady, by the way, in history. I gave the name of her. How they dug that baby out of the wall, adobe wall of the San Augustine Church. And then, how did she take that baby in the casket home? What did she do? She took her neck here, or whatever it was called. She twisted it around her head. She put that coffin on top of her head. And she walked over the Santa Cruz River near her house. And then they took and they dug up a grave for that baby. If you don't remember, please go back and read page 5. If you want to know what early Tucson was like, with the women, only one eye showing, and how they used to get the light so you can see what all those good looking women look like, Yeah, he had pretty good hormone levels, isn't it, man? Sam did awesome. Anyway. And there's the Santa Cruz River right there. The Santa Cruz River go up and then go down and disappear, come up and go down and disappear. I do have records where Modesto Eladio supposedly said that during the flood seasons, he could take a raft and he could go from Tucson to Tubac. You can't do that today, guys. I can't do that today.
Gotta go the other way. From
Tubac to Tucson. Yeah. Thank you, Tom. Anyway, that's the second.
Excuse me, is that the convento?
That's the convento, yeah.
What is
The ruin of a convento is back behind it. That big, huge building that we saw in the slide.
Yeah.
That's the ruin of that building. Looking at it from the river up toward the west.
And what is it?
It was a big building built about the same time as Santa Maria Convention, and it was perhaps at one point it was intended to be a mission. It became a trade school. There was a chapel there. There was a church there. There were lots of pictures of the church pretty much in ruin because it went to ruin very early. And this site is kind of the focus of an attempt to perhaps rebuild what this building and complex looked like originally. Maybe what the Rio Nuevo project will become.
I hope it all.
Was the definition of Tucson?
Not in the sense that we think of as a convent with nuns or monks living there, but it did serve as a trade school. And there's a real interesting tradition that's connected with this, and that is that there was a black Christ crucifix at the altar of that building when it was an active church, almost life-size, and that black Christ is called Nuestro Señor de Esquipulas. And when the garrison left Tucson, and when the Mexican garrison left Tucson in the 1850s, they took that black Christ with them, and we believe that that same crucifix is in the church at Emory's in Sonora. So if you ever get to Emory's, there's another piece of your history. You know that Sam and Atanacia would have visited this place often because it was a popular popular place to visit and picnic.
Isn't it nice to have Tom here? Thank you. He's a member of our family. Okay. One thing I want to tell you, Tom was about to telling you this story. Those of you that come from Hiram, Stevens, and Petra, and there's some of you in here I know because you're on the chart, as I mentioned yesterday. You want to know that at one time, Petra and Hiram were really these Petra Center. I don't know which side of the North Petra Center cruise. But Petra tells the story. See, Petra was like Atanacia. Petra did not really write very much. Atanacia was not really much of a writer. Okay? Petra tells the story that one of these times when the Spaniards had to leave and somebody else came in, whether it was the Southerners, the Confederates, okay, whether it was the Roman Battalion, playing for America or whatever. Petra says that her family took big sacks of money and put them down one of their wells that they had dug. It was 30 foot deep. And they put it down in the well so that the invaders would not get the family money. And then the other half of that is the invaders never found it. But when they went back, they couldn't find it either. So somebody was watching. Anyway, there's a million stories. Okay, almost lunchtime. Almost. Was it lunchtime? Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I got to tell you what Aunt Ruth told me one time. I thought that all Mexicans, that they all like to eat corn tortillas, right? Is that true?
No.
No, Atanacia likes what kind of tortillas?
Flour.
She likes flour tortillas.
You taught me to make them.
And so if you want to have Atanacia's recipe, remember, Ruth and I are not going to live forever. If you want Atanacia's recipe for flour tortillas, see this lady right here before she leaves today and go home and cook some. Okay, gotta go quick. Okay, we're going to have to quit. They're ready for lunch. Can we do the land grant stuff real fast? Oh, let's go eat. It's been almost. Let's go. Let's go eat. Did all this research, and he will establish that Atanacia's great-great-great-grandparents, Romero and Perea, were the first settled in Arizona. And if you want to really have bragging rights, if you go back on the Perea and the Elias and Gonzalez lines, they were also the first Europeans to ever settle New Mexico. So our family were the first Europeans to settle 2 states, Arizona and New Mexico.
Cliff, would you go back to that first map?
The reason why I put this on is because the dark area, that's the area claimed, and that's the area that the U.S. government said that we own. And we said that we own all of that. Okay? So, I put that in there for you so you can see.
Could you go quickly, Cliff, could you quickly go back to that first map? Just for 1 second.
Sure. Right there.
I got it. Okay, go ahead.
These are the ones that the U.S. government said we own. Now, remember, this is only just a few. Our family claimed a lot more than this. Okay, but these are the ones that the family finally had enough records to actually prove that we had. All right, I got to tell you this. Sam loved to dig for gold. Why did he go to California? To dig for gold, right? But what did he end up? How did he end up making his $3,000? Was it digging for gold? It was making pies, selling them for $1 a pie to gold miners, and making gingerbread, a foot square, selling that for $4 for a foot square of gingerbread. So that's how he made his money. So was Sam practical? Very practical. Everybody else was out digging for gold, and Sam made his fortune, $3,000 in just a couple of years, by baking for the miners. I know a lot of you in here are very practical. Okay? Some of that practicality, my wife sometimes drives my teenage son crazy. He wants to buy a certain car, and I go, you can't buy that car. You can't afford that car. You can't afford the gas and insurance for that car. He goes, Dad, would you please put that part of your history behind you, please? I want to drive this car right here, you know? Okay? So I think we all have a little practicality in us. Sam did. He did do a lot of mining, but he never really made any money at it. He never really made any money at mining. Okay? Chuck on his mission to Spain. This is all that he brought back and gave to me. This is one of my family heirlooms. My my good-looking other brother. Okay? So let's talk a little bit about Spain right now. Okay, right here. Nicholas Romero and Maria Ifidia Ferreira. These were our first, this was the first European couple to settle Arizona. And if you go back on the Ferreira line, this Francisco and Pedro were the first to settle New Mexico. That's not in your history. Okay? And we were also the first Europeans in New Mexico. Okay? What I wanted to show you was Chuck went over to Spain, and this is our Santa Cruz line, came from San Sebastian. Our Gonzales line, through Francisco Elias Gonzales, was La Rioja, Spain. And then the Carrilla line was in Andalusia, Spain. I remember one time Aunt Ruth went over to Spain and said, "Where did we come from?" And I hadn't put all this together yet then. So if you want to go back, Aunt Ruth, I can show you where to go now. This is Midnight Sacrifice. So we have now traced some of our lines back to Spain. The neat thing, some of our cousins around here, there's several hundred Perillas, Romeros, Borges, Alcamparas. If their family was born and raised in Tucson or this surrounding area, guess where they came from? One of those lines right there. So if you're down at the grocery store and somebody named Gonzales or Campoy or Castillo cuts in front of you, say, "Go ahead, cousin." It's okay. We're all the same family. Okay, so where did they come from? This is where Santa Cruz, Elias Gonzales, and Paqueto, we know that we're related somehow. We just don't know how. Grandma Black said we were related. Guess what that part of Spain is called? Basque Country. So if you guys are jumping from rock to rock and like those Basques used to do, okay, whenever they go to battle, that's where you get that screaming from. Not when you're screaming at your kids. You know, when you're out at battle. Well, maybe that is battle, huh? But the screaming comes from right there. That's our Basque line. And Chuck, by the way, served, as you can see, in many of these places where our ancestors came from. Here's Wales, where Sam came from. And like Chuck, I got to serve in many of the places where Sam's family came from. By the way, if you want to know, Caddiff is right here. There's Caddiff, right there. And right up there where that X is, between those two X's, that's where Sam came from. That was flying in this day. Okay, I had to show you this, and Chuck don't turn it off right now. But I have to thank my little baby brother Chuck, because if you look at this family group sheet, this is my handwriting. But guess whose handwriting that is? Because he can read Spanish. So when Chuck got home from his mission, I had all these records, and I had all this stuff, all of these garrison records and Catholic Church records and stuff. Chuck said I'd put it on a great big family group sheet. And I brought with you one of the originals right here. This would be a family heirloom for my family. Believe me, hours that went into this thing. And when you get done today, if you want, start falling apart. This is one of our worksheets showing our families back to Spain. One of our worksheets. It shows all of their brothers and sisters. What happened to them? You didn't know. Whenever you see John Wayne at the Alamo, you know, and the Mexicans come over and kill all of the good guys. Was it John Wayne? Who was it in that show about the Alamo? There was 3 or 4 of the famous guys. Well, do you know who killed John Wayne? Our Urea line had this huge generals at the Alamo. So whenever I watch that show now, I go, "Yeah, Mexicans, go get those old gringos!" And then they go, "Go gringos, go get those Mexicans!" You know, because we had them on both sides of the Alamo. We had our family, literally family, on both sides of the Alamo. Okay? You want to see that? That's kind of fun to see. That's not in your little history book. Okay? So, thank you, Chuck, very much. Thank you very much. Okay? My next guest on the monitor behind me is an organized crime informant. To protect his identity, we've placed him in a darkened room, so let's go to him now. Okay? So we are going to shed some light, okay, on some of our ancestors here. Okay? Tina has already gone. Tina, did you leave? Tina's right here. Tina's a lot better looking now. When she wasn't quite that good looking, when she was a young kid, Aunt Ruthie called me and said, Cliff, I want to be the Grand Marshal in the parade of Scotland. In order for me to do that, I've got to get my daughter involved and get her ancestry. We signed up her ancestry. I included this whole thing, plus the 2 pages of Jim Officer's research in the family history book, because I knew this was once every 150-year type thing. I put in there how we were the first Europeans in New Mexico and the first Europeans family settled in Arizona. So that's in that little history book. It's in the little addendum things. And so she got to be the Grand Marshal. Okay, and see what it says right down here. I didn't really have any idea that my family was that old. We're talking about old farts now, right? She says, I can't wait to see Cliff Stratton. Okay, well, here I am, Tina. Anyway, she didn't say that. But anyway, so this is Tina. And by the way, now, Knox Corbett, I understand, also has some 11th and 12th generation kids, Arizonans. So we have as many as 12 generations born in Arizona. Tina's one family, and then the Corbett's is another. Knox Corbett also. Okay. Atanacia, and this is special lady to me. That's Petra. Remember, Petra was named after Petra Alcantar, which is our Pima Indian line. Okay. And my mama, right here in the front, her name is Patricia. She was named after her great aunt, Petra. Patricia is the anglicized version of Petra. So my mama, and then this lady, she was named after her Indian grandmother. Okay. Next up, we have about 45 minutes, so we're just going to tell you a few stories that you might not be in the book. Okay, Hohokams. This is us. Now, as you know, I sent the story after I wrote all my brothers and sisters and Aunt Ruth and my mother and said, if I've got any of this wrong, you got to tell me now because there's going to be enough wrong already, but I want all the family stuff to be correct. Okay? I had always heard that we were Hohokam Pima, and that's what everybody tells me. Okay? In addition, my sister Carol Ann said that Grandma Black told her one time that we were Hohokam Yaqui. So if you're Hohokam Pima and Hohokam Yaqui, I thought, wait a minute, how many other things could we be? Well, remember, when the Spaniards came in, the Hohokam were already living at Tucson. There was already people living at Tucson. There was water. There was food here. Okay? So I did some more research. And what happens is up here, instead in Winslow, is right over here, that's mostly Navajo Hopis. I found some DNA studies. I went on PubMed. They now have DNA studies that show that the Navajos all came from Canada. Okay? Whereas the Apaches came from the Comanches, and the Comanches came from up around the New York area. We're talking about thousands of years now, right? Okay? Tracing tribes, not tracing individuals. Okay? But guess where all of these people came from? Central America. So it doesn't matter. We probably do have some Yaqui in us. We probably have some Papua, maybe some Salt River Indian. Who knows? Okay? We probably have a whole variety of Indian blood in us. But Atanacia always told family that she was a Pima Indian. Up here. This one. The DNA studies are saying now that many of the Bermudian people also came from Central America. It was up here. In fact, some of the Anasazi have been out on Mayan days. I had to mention the Navajos because many in our family in Winslow are not real fond of Navajos. And some of us are, some of us are not. And they came from the north. And this group that we're most involved with came from the south. Okay? So we are Hohokam Pima for sure. We probably have some Yaqui, we might have some, Salt River in India, but we are certainly Pima because look at Atanacia. The Indian hair, Indian eyes, okay?
Nose.
Indian features, the high cheekbone, each anatomy, remember? Okay? And if you see, look at one of her later pictures, you can actually see the little cornered eyes, because remember when the Spaniards went into Tucson, there was people that had come not only from Central America, some had come across from Japan and Asia, and had come across the Bering Strait and that. Okay? So I'm talking to a whole bunch of Japanese people in here too. You see, we have a whole mixture of blood in us. Okay, we have Asiatic, we have Indian, we have Spanish, we have Welsh. Nobody in here is a pureblood. I can tell you that right now. But that's all a part of the excitement, is because we have such a diverse background. I think it's great to have a diverse background. That's my Atanacia. I told you earlier, this is a picture. This is another one I showed you. This is my Atanacia.
Except for she had a stroke and
See on the left side just a little bit. I have it even better than that. I'll show you towards the end. Then we'll put the picture in the thing. I probably would want that to show, but I will show you a picture of that.
Well, if I had a person, pictures of the two women who were dressed finely, would that finally all have been good pictures? Or did they have enough nice clothes that they could do that?
Aunt Liz said that Atanacia never dressed like I usually dress at 5:30 at night watching TV. Okay? Or like I do on Saturday mornings. Atanacia was always very prim and proper, and she always dressed very Spanish. Her understanding of Mexican style. Very prim and proper. Okay? I have to hurry here. Yes, we do have artifacts in from Holcomb pottery that do have the same glyphs and stuff in North America. In Tucson, the early Holcombs did play the Mayan ball game in Central America. Okay, this is Central America. There's a lot of research down here. Here in Tucson, over here, in Mexico. There's the Yucatan Peninsula. And Ben went on his mission. Ben's here somewhere. Ben went on his mission. Where did you serve? Right along here. Southern coast, along here. Yeah. Okay, so now Ben went on his mission down there where his ancestors came from. The two people listed out for me. This is Palenque, okay, Atanacia's bloodline by tribe now. Yes, now we traced it back through science, the DNA studies back to Palenque. And back to Cal, this is where Jaguar was buried. There's a temple right there. Fascinating. I have a whole hour-and-a-half talk I gave to my family years ago on just our Mayan ancestors. That is fascinating. It is fascinating. Okay, you want to speak some Mayan? Ka-ka-u. That is chocolate. Anybody in here like chocolate? If you like Sam Hughes, you like chocolate. Okay? Sa-u-ul means a drink. They had a drink called Etol, or Etol that the Mayans drank. And so this is why we were able to identify some of our ancestors in Maya land, because they actually did read and write. The Hohokam didn't read and write. So we had to go through the Hohokam Indian, because we read and write, and we had a Hohokam Pima that did not read and write, and then we get back to reading and writing culture. So we did not trace our ancestors back. And I didn't do it. A couple of guys in Yale and one in Mexico did a lot of our ancestors back, all the kings and queens of the various Maya cities, and traced their ancestry back. So we have our ancestry way back, way back, till BC. I have a couple of names that supposedly were 2000 BC. Buried in Central America. That's 4,000 years ago, guys. Have you traced your ancestry back? A little ways. 4,000 years. Okay, here we have 18 rabbit, Copan. Okay. He does have very Asiatic features. We read those glyphs not because when he was born, when they went to the crown. neat stuff. They were very warlike people. Our ancestors in America were very, very warlike. I just didn't know that the Pima were a very peaceful Indian compared to the Apaches and others, and the Humans. Okay? But we do have some pretty bloody roots, I'm afraid, from our lines. And this just goes to show you how we have three, quite a bit of here's Atanacia Indians. You can go back up through Judah, from Judah, Israel, to Abraham, back up to Noah, Enoch, Enos, and Lee, through Seth. Or you can go through Ishmael, to Israel, and Lee, or through Manasseh. So I know everybody in this room is an Israelite. You have the blood of Israel in your veins. Guaranteed. I trace you back. And as a medical school doctor who teaches a lot of evolution, we also go back to Adam and Eve. And I do believe in the Adam and Eve. If you ever have an hour sometime, I'll tell you about my evolution. Okay, as I flew out of the airport, boy, I'll tell you what, Phoenix is growing. Tempe and Mason. Everybody wants to know, are all those big canals all around Tempe and Mesa, did our family help build those? They were built by the Hopis, right? Well, I only counted one cistern and three for sure, 4 of these long canals when I flew in 2 days ago. I'm afraid most of this has now been built over. 30 years ago when I used to fly in and out of Tucson, I saw lots of these patterns from the air. When you go back into Phoenix, notice you can't go anywhere in Phoenix without seeing a few of these. Well, I counted 3 for sure and 1 big system, so if you're flying out of here, make sure you look, because another generation from now, they won't be there long. And many of these were used by the Anglos when they came in. Instead of digging their own new canals, they just used the old Hoboken canal. They were already done. So I can't prove which ones were and weren't. But I did see 3 for sure in this system. Probably coming in on about 3. Probably those some okay? Before I didn't dig those. Okay. There's Sam, let's go. I went to Wales on my mission. Okay. We do have Celtic blood. Sam used to brag. Sam said, I have traced my ancestry back to the early English Celtic people. And is that true? Okay, remember I told some little life history how I kept thinking, Hughes. And I never could find any Celtic Hugheses. Sam said 120 years ago it had already been done. It was already back to Wales. And so I thought, well, it's got to be somewhere. And so then I remembered when Aunt Sis and some of us remember Aunt Sis and Aunt Liz, how they would kind of, bark at each other just to kind of keep the evening alive. And Annie's laughing over there. Okay? And I remember very distinctly when Aunt Liz said, Aunt Sis, I got a good family. The important family. I can understand that because Aunt Sis, Addie's mom, was named Atanacia. Can you imagine a more important name in this family than Atanacia? And yet, Aunt Sis never contradicted her. So, then I decided maybe I was making things too tough on myself. If I didn't, I looked on the other Edwards line, and here it is. Here is a map, one of the very few that we have, at 500 AD. English map at 500 AD. And I have the records at home. To be honest, Sam was exactly right. People long before I was born have traced the Edwards' line. Remember, Sam's mama was named Elizabeth Edwards. Aunt Elizabeth was named Elizabeth Edwards Treat. Sure enough, I went back, and these are the 2 homes of our Edwards family, Elizabeth Edwards. Right there. I'll show you the next slide. That's where she was born and raised right there. That's where Sam's family was born and raised. And all of these are other Edwards' mansions and castles and what do they call them? And I have another 8 or 9 that I could have put on here, but I couldn't find it because the name wasn't on there because it was before 500 AD. Celts were there from 600 BC. So they have their life place way back. So of course, it's a little more modern. I tell you now how I went climbing, practiced research after my mission. Those mountains right there, Pleiades on the bottom of a huge deep vale. And I went over there one time when it was snowing, and it was scary going down that mountainside. Little English car. See, I have a Jeep with four-wheel drive. I love to hunt and fish. And I was used to four-wheel drive, you know, four-wheel low and four-wheel high, you know. That little English car, I think I skied on all four wheels going down the Pleiades that day. On top of that mountain right there, going down the Pleiades. But this is where our Hughes came from. That's where Edmonds came from. That's Wales. I love that. In fact, Prophet Jonah and I have one thing in common. We both love being in Wales. Oh, is that corny or what? Huh? Is that corny? Huh? I do love. This is Wales. That's the way that Sam's ancestors dressed. Is that a little bit different than the way Atanacia's ancestors dressed?
Oh yeah.
Is there a contrast there, guys? Huh? Just a little bit of a contrast. Those are streets. Those streets of Wales. And here's one more. This is my companion trying to start our car. And in those days, we actually had to start the car with the old starter crank up front. Well, I'll tell you what, I almost lost my hand one time because those things, when you kick that governor over just right, that wheel will come back. That's why he was doing it. I'll take a picture. But that's and I want to show you how church records look like. This is what you want to see. Samuel Hughes, that's senior now. Samuel Hughes of this parish, okay, this is Whiting, okay, was married to a spinster, Elizabeth Edwards. That's where Aunt Liz got her Elizabeth Edwards name. It is not that we are guessing. It's not that we're guessing that you come from the Celts. We know you have something. Because you come from Elizabeth Edwards. Sam said his mother's name was Elizabeth Edwards from Clyde, Wales. I went and got the record. There it is. You guys are Welsh to the hilt, which means that you have your Elizabeth Edwards line back. Not for me, but other electors.
Not to the hilt, but to the kilt.
What's that?
Not to the hilt, but to the kilt.
To the kilt. Yes. Okay, that's Wales today. Now, I want you to know that some of you have this character. I know that you're all going to shake your head this way, meaning no. Okay? But some of you are like me. Don't be afraid, Doug. Me teach him sit on finger. Closer, Doug, closer. Are any of you guys stubborn? My wife says that of all the attributes that I got, my being stubborn, and that's the way I am about genealogy. I'm like, Janice and I were talking during the break. If there's something I don't know about genealogy, I will do anything I have to, any kind of research to find that out. I am stubborn. And that guy is pretty stubborn. Don't be afraid. He taught that bird well, didn't he? He taught that dinosaur well. Right. Okay, so the kind of homes our ancestors lived in, you all live in air-conditioned homes. This is what a Celtic home looked like. This is what a Hohokam looked like. And for the Hohokams landed in Tucson, the indigents came across the Bering Strait. They looked like this. This is Kansas Seminary Mission, and there's Hobart. There's people. Okay? Those are the homes of your ancestors, guys. Okay, they did have one thing in common. This is where Atanacia's ancestors traveled. This is where Sam's ancestors traveled. Other than that, they did not have much in common. They came from two different continents, two different worlds. The fuel light's on, Frank. We're all going to die. Oh, wait. Oh, my mistake. That's just the intercom line. But after 9/11, I had to put that one in. Many of you flew here out of idea. Okay, so now we're going to take Atanacia. Let's do one another. Because I want to leave explain one thing to you. We are very fortunate to have this woman as our mom. Okay? and to have Toady as our grandmother, because they gathered records. And so the whole last half of that book, where Sam and Atanacia tell their history, they tell, if you look at that, it has quotes. Every paragraph is all quotes. What I did was, all that you've heard before was research that we've done, that we've heard about family histories. The whole last half of that book about Sam and Atanacia, where they tell their own stories, they are literally telling that to you. Because I went through all these humongous records, and I literally quoted them as they told a newspaper reporter, or as they wrote it in a journal, or as they wrote it in a letter to a family member. Everything in the last half of that about Sam and Atanacia, their life histories, they are telling you their life histories. So if there's anything in dispute up until the ancestry part, I take blame. But you know what? Everything in the last half of that book is right out of their mouths. So you can believe what's in it. When Sam says he was in Eureka during these years, and the gal got tuberculosis this time, you can believe it. Because those quotes, when he said that, quoted right out of his own mouth. Now we have it 100 years later. We have his quotes. So read it.
So, Andre, the king wants to know how you're coming along
with St. George and the Dragon picture. St. George and the Dragon. Okay? There are no mistakes from here on out because I quoted Sam and Atanacia word for word. Okay? So we'll just go through real fast. This is the Sam I always remember. I've never seen that picture anywhere. I got this off the newspaper. In fact, I didn't apologize. In your little history that I sent you, that you picked up today, all of those pictures I had were taken off of newspapers that were over 100 years old. So that's why they don't look real good in the history. I'm sorry. That's all I had. Okay? I have never seen this picture. Except in newspapers. That's the signature. Sandy Hughes. Sandy Hughes. Okay, I had to put this one in because Sam, remember he spoke Welsh, right? He didn't speak English. Sam spoke Welsh. And so, when he went to school in Pennsylvania for the first time, her answer off by miles, Sheila's cow sense was always the target of ridicule. Sam says he went to school for 3 days and he got ridiculed so bad because of his Welsh accent that he left and he never went back to school to learn. 3 days is his education. So, I'll let you speak some Welsh. Okay? This is a platform ticket going to a town in Wales, and it means the little chapel at the bottom of a vale near a Roman bridge over the little aqueduct. Okay, which is where a lot of the fields. Okay, listen to this. Talk about German being good, Welsh, and it's very good. Flambeer, Holzwingish, say it, okay? Flango, Rilren, then Drove, W is Rush, then Drovish, Flandacilio, Go. That's the name of the town of Wales. Okay? You ready to read that? The last part we got, go. Okay? We got that part okay. All the rest of that. So maybe you understand now why Sam had a hard time in a very early Pennsylvania school in the 1840s. Okay? So this is how Sam learned. This is Sam's way of learning. Shh! Here come one now. Okay? So how did Sam learn? The school of hard knocks. If you look at his life, he loved every minute of it. He really tasted life before. Remember, he almost died twice of TB. And I'll tell you what, when a man almost loses his life, he realizes how delicate life is. And Sam savored every minute and every one of his successes, every one of his failures. Okay? Okay, we talked earlier about how Sam came to Tucson. Sam says that he was not on a horse. He was on a horse when he left San Francisco and then Oregon. But he came on his back in a wagon. He came to Tucson. They thought they were leaving him there to die. And this is the Tucson that he knew, right there. We're talking about that church right there. Okay? This is Sam's Tucson when he first got there. And again, everybody wants to know, and now you know. Why did Sam stay in Tucson? Why did he stay in Tucson? Because he was alive. That's the first school. That's the old Congress school. I was supposed to tell that last night, but we gave him 3 minutes. That's the first school, the second school that Sam helped build in Tucson. That's the Congress Street School. Okay? And there's my great grandma, Atanacia again. Okay? So there's the 2 sisters, and there's John Lucan. And so I know about them. You know what I'm thinking now is about this church right here. Okay? I just wondered, there was 3 San Augustine churches. The one that was there before Atanacia was born, before there was a Presidio of Tucson. Our family did not use that. They used the one at Bobby and the Coker. I told you that. On the record. And then there was the square-faced San Augustine church was at the back of the Tucson Presidio. And then they built this, and this is the 3rd San Augustine church. There it is, built about 1850, 1854. That's San Augustine Church. You see that ornament right there? Before you leave today, cross your heart, you must go right out this door and go out the front door, not the 2 side doors. Because you know what Tom did? Tom took that face right there, and that cross, it's in the case of it. He took that face, that facade, and put it on the front of this historical society building. When you walk out the main door, we'll walk the 2 little side ones with the ramps. Walk out the main door, turn around and look, and you will see that facade right there. That facade right there. That facade right there. Sam, when he came in town, that was his Catholic church. So, you know how many times Sam had Atanacia when he got Catholic? I wonder how many hundreds of times Atanacia walked under that same facade to come in to a mass to pray for the Jesus. You've got to walk through that door. You have to do that so you can play your great band. I walked through and get Sam and Atanacia door neighborhood church. I want to go one step further. In your little life history, I've talked about how Guadalupe, Austin Festival, Hughes, and how she had a clean house and was quilting. Remember the festival to make it herself, that's why she didn't think Atanacia in. Okay? I was reminded yesterday by someone in here that Atanacia put in her will that she put in her will 2 quilts that she wanted to give in the family. You know who made those 2 quilts? I'll bet you. Guadalupe made those quilts. I would love to see those quilts. Atanacia made hundreds of quilts in her life. There was 2 old quilts that she put in her will for a certain family members. I would think I would need them. I would bet you. I would like to see that. Make sure you see Teresa's quilts. Okay, if they're really, really, really old, you have to keep in your mind that Atanacia made a lot of quilts, but you don't know where she learned from. Spaniards don't make quilts, by the way, guys. Spaniards don't make quilts. Who makes pottery and quilts and baskets That's Hokum time. That's Pima. And you see those quilts, that's your Pima Indian line. The English made quilts too, but of course she was making quilts before she ever met Sam. So Sam encouraged that, yes, you're right. Okay, so there's one of her quilts. Let's play in the heart. We all got a good heart last night. Okay. At San Hughes School, they have a heart player for the heart. Okay. Now, this is all in the history book. Okay, we need to change gears now a little bit. Okay. What are we doing? What time is it? Who can read that?
2 o'clock, straight up.
Okay, I've got about 5 minutes. Okay. It looks like inadvertently, Roy dooms the entire Earth to annihilation when, in an attempt to be friendly, he seizes their leader by the head and shakes vigorously. Okay? Well, we also love our family too. Okay? We also want to be friendly with family. And so we want to realize that Sam and Atanacia traveled a great deal. I had to get a big machine. Here it is, the first overland stage. Now, remember, Juan Santa Cruz, when he died, Atanacia had been born in that stage, that building, the stage. Guadalupe couldn't afford to keep the Durans after her for money or building. And so she gave them the land adjacent to the stagecoach building. And so when all of those travelers came in Tucson, for $135 from San Antonio, Texas, to Tucson, okay, they stayed in the building like Nashville. That's what it looked like. John Wayne was right. Okay, and then National Sam at their 50th anniversary, we already talked about that, how they went out to get married.
That was the picture when at the school in Mr. Hughes' room. That's the picture that's on the wall. That's the pencil time on the wall. You have to see it. Party hat going in.
All right, thank you. Yeah. Okay. Senator Walker talked about that. I didn't bring this. I'm chicken little. If this got broken, my wife would kill me and everybody in this whole room. Atanacia talks, I'll tell you in life history, how Sam bought her some beautiful wedgwood, whatever it was, china, and how on their wedding, he gave her that china, and I was fortunate enough to end up with some of those. And then 50 years later, Atanacia had saved it her entire 50 years of marriage. And when they had their 50th wedding anniversary, she brought it out again. And I know that 2 or 3 of you here have this, because I've seen it. Some of you have. That is the original Sam and Atanacia when they were married. And they had their little party in this one. Which you're going to see tomorrow in Washington. In Washington, I'm going to see this one. It's not real hard. There's Sam. Harry Stevens, his best friend. There's the well was really good. The well was good for watering trees, but did humans drink it? Probably not much, right? Because it was very acidic and probably would kill you. If it would kill you, Tom, if it drink too much?
Not really, but not acidic, but alkaline.
Alkaline. Very alkaline.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that well looks good, but Sam, you see the higher green on? What's he leaving on? How come? Was that to make that tree grow nice and straight and tall? Keep the horses from eating the tree. Okay? So that gives us an idea about that right there. One battalion, you know what to do about more, so you don't control that. I want to show you my good looking ancestor. That. Isn't it amazing that something this gorgeous could come from that? I'm just being honest, guys, okay? Just ask my wife or my mom and she'll tell you I'm gorgeous, okay? But this is Ebenezer Brown. He was the cook in the Mormon battalion, just like Sam was a cook. And I made his $3,000 at the Gold Diggers, like eating gingerbread, okay, and pies. He's in the Mormon battalion. And so now, I have the Mormon battalion guy right there. And I've got Atanacia right there. And Atanacia said that she was standing at the wall of the Presidio when the Mexicans went out, and the Mormons came in, and they planted the American flag for the first time in Tucson. She witnessed that.
But when you all go downtown, if you've got an extra couple of minutes, in the courthouse plaza, which is it is still the main downtown plaza going all the way back to the time of the Presidio. middle of that plaza, there are two statues that I think you will enjoy looking at. You can take the extra couple of minutes to walk from the Corbett House over. It's less than a block. There is a statue of a Presidial soldier, soldado de Cueva, right under the flagpole. And right in the middle of the plaza, there is a statue of the Mormon battalion and the flag that they planted, meeting up with one of the leading citizens of Presidio in 1846. So I think there are two pieces of Tucson history.
Our history, that's us, we're both sides. The thing that always worried me was, I've done so much for years and years, what worried me was according to all the histories I've ever read by everybody, was that when the United States came in by a Mormon battalion, most of the residents of Tucson left Tucson. Guess who didn't? Atanacia said, I was standing on the wall, and I watched it all happen. So our family, they'd already been through Spain and Mexico and the whole, the whole Confederate government thing, and so one more foreign invader was nothing that nation. Okay? I had to put this one in. Those of you that can read Spanish, can you read that? Matthew, we're getting one of those strange habla español sounds. Okay? ¿Qué pasa? What's happening? Habla español. Okay? What does that mean? Being feo? I thought feo was ugly. You are ugly? Is that what that means? Ruthie, where are you? When I need you. Is Ruthie still here?
It's good and ugly. Bien, feo, good and ugly.
Oh.
Very ugly.
You are very ugly?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was obviously something else that sounded like that. Okay. Bueno dias.
Good day.
Okay, so, that's exactly how Sam felt. He had to learn, he was Welsh, you just spoke Welsh. He had to learn English to do business with his English partners. He had to learn Spanish to live with his wife and his kids. And he says that his kids all spoke Spanish. Yeah, she cooks the Spanish pretty good, I'm sure. And she also thumped you with that thimble pretty good. So I didn't want to get Atanacia mad because she thumped while she was cussing. Okay. This is now out there in the trail. I want to tell you this because one of the really great family stories I love, and this is not in your book, one of the great family stories I love is, remember Atanacia was born and raised in the little Tucson city. Nothing but mud and dirt and loving family all around her. And so they were married 3 years, and Sam says, we're going to go on a honeymoon. Where did he take her? He takes her down Mexico, they hop on a boat. Had she ever seen an ocean before? All of a sudden she's on this boat, and she was all the way from Mexico, all the way up to San Francisco, 17 days on the water, she says. And then when she lands, what day did they just happen to land in San Francisco? The 4th of July. Here's all these guys shooting off all these guns, and Atanacia says that night, besides, there's thousands and thousands of people. She went from maybe 2,000 to 3,000 people in Tucson, and she goes to San Francisco on the 4th of July, and she says that night, they had the fireworks. Atanacia says, I've never seen anything like that in my whole life. She said that was incredible. Could you imagine what a honeymoon she had? And then Sam says, okay, Atanacia, tomorrow night we're going to go to the opera. And she said, go to what? We're going to go to the opera. And so these glasses, if you look at the date right up there, it says 1863. And they were these were made in Paris, 1863. In 1865 was when Sam took Atanacia to the opera in San Francisco, and he bought them those glasses. You can see those glasses in that picture over there. Can you imagine the honeymoon she had? Isn't it fantastic? I can just imagine. And Atanacia, she was so full of life, so full of energy. I'm so full of something, but she was so full of energy and life, And I could just picture Atanacia hanging onto Sam's arm, going, what's going on around here, you know? What's happening? You know, I want some more Spanish soldiers around me, you know, I want my friends back. So you can go see that next door. Okay? This is a picture I love. And again, she's what? And you know what I saw yesterday? One of Tom's pictures? This picture is in this library right here. For $15 you can get a 5x7 from the original. The original of this is in this vault. You can't see it. But you can wear white gloves. You can see this picture. $15 you can get a copy of the original. And on the back it says, Pregnant with Maggie. Pregnant with Maggie. And that's my mom, that's grandma. That's Lizzie. That's Lizzie right there. And then you come from Lizzie, and this is Sam, and then you come from Elsie or Tom, okay?